Hey everybody, it's the Cliff Yates Show, and I'm live here on YouTube, vertical mode, raw and real. And you know the reason I do that, because when I go raw and real in the vertical mode here on YouTube, people are jumping in and out of the shorts feed, and we gain a bigger audience. We are expanding our reach when we go vertical live. Shows up in the shorts feed, so people who aren't already subscribed get to see, who is this crazy SOB? Do I actually want to watch this? Is this something I'm interested in? Do I want to subscribe to the channel? Yes, you do. It's all positive content. It's all self-improvement, personal growth. And hey, that is very important. And I'm keeping it very, very simple today. It's all about weightlifting for a total life makeover. You can't believe the difference just progressive resistance and weight training will do to your whole life. Listen, this is male or female. Doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, if you go into a public gym nowadays, you're going to see probably you're going to see a very, very high percentage of women in the gym, which I'm glad to see. You know, it's no longer that the men are throwing the heavy iron around in the gyms, and then the women are taking Pilates and yoga. We got a lot of women in there. They're driving some iron around in the regular gyms, and I love to see it because, you know what, it can be kind of a social thing. You meet people of the opposite sex. Why not? I go in there and get my work done. Now, I don't go in there to socialize. I'm in the gym to get it done. And I'll tell you what, if you go into the gym with a purpose and a mission, and it's a planned session, you know, to get great results, you only have to work out with weights 3 days a week. You do 3 days a week at 40 to 45 minutes each session. That's right, less than an hour. You're going to see tremendous gains. Now, of course, you know, the key is going to be consistency over time. You're going to see great gains over time. Instant results are not going to happen. Just be prepared because they're coming. You're probably, if you haven't done any weight training at all, you are going to see an initial gain right away. You are going to see a jump. And then you might see a little bit of leveling off, and you're going to say, wait a minute, I'm not making gains anymore. No, keep doing what you're doing. Keep immersing yourself in the knowledge of the best way to conduct your weight training sessions. Now, listen, I've been weight training for 55 years. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because I've immersed myself in weight lifting, weight training, bodybuilding for 55 years. Since high school, a little kid in high school. What was I? 16 years old. Can you imagine? 16 years old, 6'2", 135 pounds. My God, did I want to be 135? No, I didn't want to be 135 pounds. All my friends were on the football team. My friends were on the basketball team. My friends were wrestlers. So yeah, 100% of the people were all bigger than I was. My close friends, I wanted so badly to play on the football team. Played 2 years on the junior varsity because you didn't have to make the team. Anybody who wanted to play could be on the JV team. So I did, even though I got trampled every day. I mean, I got cleat marks right across my face, but I wanted to be part of that culture. I wanted to be, part of the group. I wanted to be on the team. And, genetically, that's just the way it was for me. I was 135 pounds. It wasn't that I wasn't eating. But here I was, 16 years old, 135 pounds, pushed around, made fun of. Why are you so skinny? My God, that's sickly looking. And it really, man, does it taste like shit when people are making these comments to you. Pipe stem arms, you have a bony chest, pointy chest. I still remember the names, but you know what? Thank you. Thank you for my bullies. I did an episode once. Thank you, my bullies, because if it wasn't for you, I don't think I would be so driven for gaining weight, muscularity, longevity that I have been now for the past 55 years. And if you haven't been lifting weights, progressive resistance, weight-bearing exercises, then you need to start. Now the science is in. The medical journals have reported it. The tests have been done. The studies are there. Even if you're 70, 80, 90, people in their 80s, it's been documented they've gained muscle. And we know in those later years how important that is to be using weight-bearing exercises for bone density, for balance. We know the number one thing after about age 65 that's going to kill you or really set you back is a fall. And that's going to put you out, which could lead to pneumonia, other things, in fact, death. You don't want that. And so you can prevent that. Preventative exercise is so important, and weight-bearing exercises is really going to make it for you. And so I hope you're already in a program that you've conducted yourself, or maybe you have a trainer, or maybe you have a personal trainer at your gym who's helping you out, or you're going to sign up for one. If you know nothing about weights and weight training and how it works, then I think a personal trainer would be good to start with. You could do it for a few weeks, or maybe a couple months. I don't know how long you would need it. Now, when I started, I remember the football coach, Frank Ruane, would always tell me, listen, Yates, you see these weights down here in the gym? They're always here. Every night you can come down here. Rome was not built in a day. Start from where you're at. And I started coming down there and lifting weights. And then I had a couple teachers, right? You always have a couple people. Maybe you've had two people in your high school. Usually, for me, two people, teachers, right? They see greatness within you. They see inside you. Hey, you know what? You got great. Hey, how are you? Hey, Tiffany Carey, how are you? Who's AI? I'm not AI. Are you AI? I am not. That's why I go raw and real, because I am not AI. That's why I do this, because it's unscripted. There's no teleprompter. I don't have any notes. I'm speaking from the heart. And today I didn't know what I was going to talk about. And I thought, what do I know about? I know about really the benefits of weight training. I've done it for 55 years. And initially it was just because I was so skinny, wanted to play on my high school football team, the basketball team, negative, couldn't happen. You know, my friends were on the wrestling team, basketball, and I was just 6'2", 135. Come on, I didn't want to be that. And Frank Ruane, the one coach, get down here, Cliff, to the gym. It's open every night. You can have use of these weights. I didn't know anything about weights. No one, even my friends who were twice as big as me, I didn't even see them lifting any weights. They just were naturally, genetically bigger than I was. Sometimes I see the wrestling guys, they would lift weights. Some of the football people I would see lifting weights. But no one that I was friends with ever actually lifted weights or invited me to lift weights with them. But then I had an English teacher. I'm going to remember her name. But, God, she was actually beautiful. And she went overseas, and she actually brought back a European muscle magazine. She goes, hey, listen, I saw this magazine. I thought of you. I know you're starting to lift weights, Cliff. And so I started looking in that magazine. Then I started looking at Muscle and Fitness, right, an American publication. Then I started looking at Health and Strength, Powerlifting magazine. And then I got subscriptions. So I started really immersing myself in the bodybuilding magazines, learning about what different exercises caused different muscles to grow, how many sets, what weights to use, how many reps together with sets, what the bodybuilders' routines were, how about their nutrition, what they ate. And so then I started to model what they were eating and what they were doing and how they were training. And then I got it in my head in a very unhealthy way, everybody, in a very unhealthy way. I got it in my head that I didn't give a shit about anything else but gaining weight. Damn it. I drew a line in the sand. I would not be skinny any longer. And I know it wasn't the healthiest way to live. Now, I always had trouble eating a lot of solid food. I just could not put a lot of solid food down. But liquid food, I found out I could put a lot of liquid down. So I was actually working at a grocery store, age 16. So I started drinking 6 quarts of whole milk every day without fail. In the morning, I would have a little breakfast, but either way, I would have a quart of milk and drink that whole quart. Whole milk, and then I would go to work at my grocery store. Let's say it was a full day on a Saturday. My morning break, quart of milk. That's my second one of the day. Lunch, I had a quart of milk. That's 3. Afternoon break, quart of milk. When I left the grocery store as the bag boy, another quart of milk. I'm already at 5 quarts of milk a day. I'd have one more at night after my dinner with my parents. 6 quarts of milk a day, and I continued that. And man, in 1 year, and it wasn't all healthy weight, believe me, but I was lifting heavy weights. In 1 year, I went from that 135, but this took me from 18 to 19. I'd already graduated high school. So I went from 135 to 185. I gained 50 pounds in 1 year. And I was so happy because I was not that skinny kid anymore. I didn't have that tiny little waist that people want today. I actually went up to a 30. I was so happy to have that 36-inch waist. Unbelievable, right? 185. And gradually, when I joined the Livingston County Sheriff's Department in Geneseo, New York, age 21, full-time, I continued. I would have a gallon of milk every night on my shift. I had a cooler in my front seat, on the floorboard, and I would drink a gallon of whole milk. And eventually I got up to finally 200 pounds, 135 to 200 pounds. Listen, not the best health-wise, I can't imagine. But I was feeling really good at this heavier weight. And I was definitely more effective as a police officer at 200 than I would have been at 135. And so I had really good signs on me. And then I started to work out pretty intensively when I started applying to larger police departments around the country, applying to New York City, applying to LA Sheriff, LAPD, Houston PD, and around the country. And then when I got to the LA County Sheriff's Academy, I was 185 pounds, but I hadn't really run as much as I should have. The running part of the LA County Academy was pretty intense, and I had trouble. I was challenged, and I struggled. I made it through. Strength-wise, no trouble. I had that down pat. The weightlifting, I had habituated weight training so much, even on our rare 2 days off during the weekend from the academy, where most people were busy doing their homework assignments, writing their notes. You had to type up your notes, get them prepared for Monday, making sure those shoes and leather gear were all shined up, and then getting your uniforms pressed and cleaned. And so really your days off were filled with some activities getting ready for the next week at the academy, and I did that on purpose. But I'll tell you what, I had a buddy of mine in the LA Academy. It didn't matter. Every Saturday and Sunday that we had off, and sometimes, a lot of times they tried to get us, we were doing things on Saturdays. We were going to the pistol range, the rifle range, the shotgun range. So a lot of times we would only have the 1 day off, right? They give us overtime on that Saturday. And so that 1 day off, my buddy and I, we would always work out at Gold's Gym in Venice, California, and with all the big bodybuilders. That was very inspiring. As a matter of fact, I ended up, when I got into the jails, I worked out with a good friend of mine. He became a good buddy of mine, and he was a competitive bodybuilder. And he was always training for the Mr. LA. And little did I know at the time, Mr. Naive here, most of my bodybuilding friends, even on the sheriff's department at the time and in the gyms, they were all on steroids, man. They were all taking the juice. And of course, I came to learn this. And I was always tempted, just because ego-wise, it is hard to work out next to these big dudes, man, who are competing in bodybuilding competitions and powerlifting competitions. And here you are, and you're not taking any drugs, any steroids. And so ego-wise, you're loading up the plates for them. And then when it's your turn, you're taking off the plates, and you're like, wow, should I? And something in my heart and my head said, no, you should not do that. And so, because I decided long enough, I knew a long time before that question came up that I was not going to be competing as a bodybuilder. Genetically, I don't care. I tried. My legs can only get so big, can only get so muscular. It's just the genetic makeup. Of course, we can all improve, right? With progressive resistance, we can get our legs bigger. And, but, genetically, for me, no way. And I would have never made it into the bodybuilding competitions. Hey, listen, arms, chest, upper body, no problem. But of course, in bodybuilding competition, it's about symmetry. You got to be balanced. Everything's got to be in proportion. The calf should just about be the same size as the bicep. There's proportions that makes you symmetrical to win a bodybuilding competition. There's no way in hell that was going to happen for me as genetically impaired as I was in the leg department. I say that having spent so many hours, with my good competitive bodybuilding buddy, just wrapping my knees up, squatting heavy weights. I got to where I could squat 275 for 3 to 4 reps. You know, that's, 2.25 is an Olympic bar with 245-pound plates on each side. I never got up to 315, which would have been 345s on each side. But either way, so I did make some great gains in pushing the weight and probably to the best size that I could with my legs. But listen, hours and hours of squatting, almost to the point of puking. I mean, we would have these leg sessions that just went. I worked out with many people who would get to the point of throwing up and doing their leg routine. And I'll tell you what, even though I was involved in some heavy leg training days for many, many years, and I still train legs to this day, very, very hard. Even though I have friends, if I sat next to them on the couch, they never crossed the threshold of a gym. They never did a leg routine whatsoever. I have friends, their legs are twice the size of my legs. They're round, they're full, they have shape. They never squat, never leg press, never leg extension, leg curls, Bulgarian squats, nothing, lunges. No. And so that's enough to piss you right off. But genetically, that's the way it is. You take your cards that you're dealt, but that's okay. You still play the hand the best way you know how. But by constantly immersing myself for years in every bodybuilding publication, so I learned so much about nutrition, so much about weights, how to train, sets and reps, high reps, lower weight, higher weight, lower reps. What kind of results can you look for when you're doing these things? But all in all, to gain the basic knowledge of what you need to know to get started would take you a couple hours, and that would be it. If you go in there with a trainer, he's going to get you on a pretty good program so that you know what you're doing when you go in there. And hey, what's up, my friend? Let me acknowledge EIS Superfood. How are you? Gavin Newscomb, I hope you're out. I better not look like him. That is the worst thing you could say to me. Take that back right now, that son of a bitch. Newscomb. All right, listen, everybody. One of the best things you can do, when you take shots, you got to understand it's not about you. It's about them, right? So you can't take offense. You can't be thin-skinned. People are going to take shots at you. You want to put yourself out there like I do. People are going to throw some shade on you, right? But that's all right. You know what I mean? If you're doing the right thing for the right reason in the right way, you don't give a shit about people's opinions or judgments of you, because if you do, you don't want to be doing things for likes and shakes and bakes, because that's just not the right way of doing things. But Governor Newscomb, oh my God, you really slapped me on that one, but I'm going to just laugh it off. All right, glad you're just kidding. But, he is a scumbag. There's no doubt about it. I'm sorry. I lived in California for 35 years. Newscomb he's a scumbag. He is definitely a freaking scumbag. Because California, believe me, and I'm sure in the 70s, but when I got there in the 80s, it was a paradise. I mean, sure, today is still the weather's nice, but I'm telling you, you didn't have the freeways weren't clogged and bogged, and you didn't have gas prices that were triple. Maybe they were double. I don't know, but I can take a joke. EIS Superfood. Listen, I can take a joke. That's one of the things that I've learned in my personal growth is, hey, listen, if I'm going to give my power away to somebody else when they make a statement or an opinion, if I'm going to let that affect my mood, I have given my power away, and don't you do it either. I'm not going to do that. I will look at constructive criticism. Sometimes I will look at comments and say, is that true? Is there anything to that? And sometimes there is. Sometimes there's some beneficial stuff, and I can learn from constructive. I take it in, everybody. I look at it. One thing I do constantly still to this day, even though I know I shouldn't, and I try to dial it back, is I talk too fast. I talk so rapidly. If I played it back, I probably couldn't understand myself. So do I try to constantly refocus and slow down? Absolutely, I do. Do I try to do it? I try to do it to the point where I can still sound like I'm in a natural rhythm of speaking without sounding robotic. So there is a balance there. But if I got such rapid fire thoughts coming to me, and my tongue is tripping over those as they start spitting out through my heart into my mouth. Sometimes it's tough, but I do the best I can. But somebody told me that once, and it is constructive criticism. Not only did they tell me that, listen, when I did stand-up comedy, when you're doing stand-up, if you're not getting laughs and you're just starting out, this causes big anxiety in you, all right? And so what you do is you start to hurry. You don't wait for that punchline to hit, and then you start doing worse and worse. You actually make it worse than it would have been if you just sat there and acknowledged the silence. Sometimes that's some of your funniest stuff when you can just, that one was for free. You know what I mean? If you got to laugh at your own unfunniness, if you can sit tight with that, if you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, the audience picks up on it. See, when you're afraid, boy, the audience picks up on it like this. It's just amazing. Damn it, how they do that. And that'll happen when you're starting out. But as you continue to do it, right, as you continue to go up on stage, you start to realize, hey, I'm going to get through this. You start working with major headliners, right, who actually get up on stage and they bomb. People who are headlining comedians who perform all over the country in arenas, in Las Vegas. And if you ever get the opportunity to open for some of these guys and gals, then you see, wow, they had a bad night tonight. Now I opened for Mike Marino, New Jersey's band. I never saw him have a bad night. I never saw him. I have seen him have troublesome hecklers, and he killed them. So listen, at the end, he won, but I've never seen him lose. But anyways, everybody, weight training, so important. It's so beneficial, not only for your strength, how you carry yourself, but weight training itself. Just bone density. It also depletes your cells of glycogen, and it's going to help you be more insulin sensitive because you don't want to be insulin resistant. The more we're insulin resistant, that leads to prediabetes or diabetes. It runs in my family. I've got to fight for it or against it all the time. And part of my strategy is to continue working out. So initially, right, high school, I start working out with weights, immersing myself in the bodybuilding magazines and the weight training magazines, learning about nutrition, gaining size. How can I get bigger? And I'm learning all these methods of training to get size in muscle and also what kind of nutrition to take in, all because I'm trying to counteract this self-consciousness of being so skinny and so thin. Now, as years go by, then I decide, wait a minute, it's not all about gaining weight. It's let's maintain muscle size or gain it, but let's start eating just nutritious food, all right? Not just trying to get fat and muscle on. And so I had to gradually evolve, but it's been a 55-year now habitual, it's been habituated on a daily program of weight training. Now today I'm taking off from weight training. It's purposefully I'm taking a rest day. I've actually been banging out some really heavy days, and you got to take, now, that's one of the secrets you learn as far as getting bigger. Yeah, when you go into the gym and you're hitting those weights, right, you're doing an arm set, right, then you get a pump because as you're breaking down arm tissue, as an example, you're breaking down the muscle in your biceps. Actually, as you contract and you put a heavier load on your muscles than you can easily lift, you're actually tearing down that muscle. You're causing tiny little breaks in that muscle. But as you do sets with repetition in close proximity with each other, now blood flushes in to help that muscle, to protect that muscle, to carry that weight. And so the muscle is flushed with that blood and you got the pump, right? And you feel big right then because you're full of blood in that one tissue area. That's why you only work one muscle group at a time, because it's healthy for growth to keep blood into the one muscle group. And then, and now on your rest days, if you rest that muscle like you should, that's when you get bigger. That's when you grow, because all those tiny little tears that you caused by doing your contractions with a heavier weight than you can easily perform, now when you are getting the proper protein intake together with the essential amino acids that are necessary to repair muscle tissue. Because now your muscle if it had a brain, would be saying, and they always say muscle has a brain, it really has a memory, because now your muscle is saying, okay, I know the kind of load you threw on me, and we broke down some of my muscle here. I got to build back up, so the next time that we go in to that torture chamber, I can handle that weight. I'm going to grow a little bit, so now I can handle that weight more easily. And that's why the next time you go in, you might stay the same, but when you can, now you add a little bit more. Progressive resistance, right? We do resistance. Muscle's going to adapt to handle the weight. And now we're going to add some because we're going to dial up the resistance, because then the muscle will grow some more. Now, eventually you come to the point of no return, and it's going to be about maintenance or muscle confusion. Muscle confusion is a Weider principle, and that involves the muscles will get used to the routines that you're doing, and it'll get a little bored. It'll be hard to stimulate growth after a while because the muscle is conditioned to the same movements, range of motion, and so people will do is they'll switch it up. Oh, today I'm going to do back and biceps. I'm going to do a pull, because when you work your back, you're kind of pre-exhausting your biceps, even though the muscle's pulling down here. Part of the motion is assisted by the biceps. So now you've kind of pre-exhausted is what they call it. And so now when you go from pull, your back, now you go to biceps. See, they help each other out. And then you can go to push, because when you do a bench press, right? If you do a full motion bench press, after you get past 3/4, actually what kicks in more than your chest is your triceps. But either way, in that movement of bench pressing, triceps are an assisting muscle. So even though you're doing your chest with biceps, you are pre-exhausting, they call it, your triceps. So now when you hit your triceps after chest, they're already warmed up. They're really ready to roll. You can bang them heavy. They've already been doing some work. And so that's how you learn, how to combine muscle groups. And then you might have a routine where you do an overall body group or an overall body exercise program for the day where you work your entire body. Now, when you do that, you're going to have a different makeup of sets and reps. But if you're just isolating chest and back on one day only, right? Because then you're resting your legs, you're kind of resting your shoulders and arms, although they're helping with chest and back. But, when you're alternating like that, and now when you do legs, now your upper body gets a chance to rest, right? So you can actually, that's how you kind of get what they call a split routine. So you're working out 6 days a week. Yeah, but I'm only working chest and back twice a week. I'm only working shoulders and arms twice a week. I'm only working out legs twice a week. You don't have to be in the gym as long, and you can really focus on those muscle groups. But that's if you're really serious about bodybuilding. But really, at my age and your age maybe, you don't have to be. I'm so entrenched in the bodybuilding knowledge. That's kind of what my routines are around. But I really need to change up my routine and do less weights and concentrate on my off days on sprinting. I do tennis 3 days a week and stand-up paddleboarding. It's all about moving a lot as you get older. When you're young, it's not so necessary, and you won't be feeling the detrimental effects of bad behavior, of missing workouts, bad meals. When you're younger, the body adapts, corrects much easier. But listen, if you're younger, it's better to start establishing those habits, healthy nutrition habits today, now. Don't wait like some people do till they have to, right? Our choices in life are two. We make the choice, we decide, or we get forced to make a change, right? And the same thing happens with health. Wealth, you get these people, I guess I got to start lifting weights now. They're 70 years old. They could have started 50 years ago. Listen, the best time to start was when you were very young. The next best time to start is right now. And do not be intimidated by the gym. I am so happy to see so many young people in the gym now. I have 2 gyms that I go to. One just closed down, so it just worked out in my favor because I moved locations. So I have a beach gym. They changed hands because the owner died. And so now, in the meantime, I thought, I'm over here. I have a Crunch gym close to me, so I'm going to join up over here just on the monthly, $9.99 a month plan. And it's so nice to see. I have two different cultures in my beach gym. It's an older crowd of people, mostly. And then the Crunch gym, it's a good mix of young and old, male and female, because they have everything in there. They got spin classes, they got yoga classes, they got Tai Chi classes, and they got everything. The amount of treadmills in the upper floor of this Crunch is there's got to be 25 treadmills, amongst other upper body stuff. And then they got a big room for boxing stuff. And that's where I jump rope. Guys, gals, if you have not jumped rope, I used to make a lot of videos when I'm on the island of jumping rope. There is nothing better than jumping rope. First of all, when you first start, it's going to be so clumsy. You look like an idiot. You feel like an idiot. If you tape yourself, you'll see that you are an idiot. And you're jumping way too high. It's not good for your joints. You're going to hurt your calves, your ankles, everything else. But eventually, and I follow these guys on YouTube called the Jump Rope Dudes. Now, these guys, they teach you the basics of if you want to start doing the boxer step, and man, all of a sudden it starts getting fun, right? You start doing different crossovers, bop, 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 and then, your boxy steps, bop, bop, bop. And then, you start looking at new moves you can add. And then as you gradually get very good at your jumping rope, you are just, if you're doing it right, you're jumping off the ground maybe a half an inch or less, right? So it's really low impact. When you're doing it correctly, jumping rope, low impact, fun. You can start adding little skill tricks in there, little kick outs and, little crossovers, bop, bop. And different things it just makes it fun, your cardio fun. And I'll tell you, if you do a jump rope routine of 45 seconds to 1 minute and then rest for 30, then back at it 45 seconds, rest for 30. In about 10 minutes, you're gonna feel like you ran a damn marathon. But lifting weights, everybody, is so important. It just does, not just for the muscle that it builds or maintains. You're going to walk differently. You're going to carry yourself differently just because your frame is going to feel that much more solid, right? I mean, the euphoria you get from working out, it's almost like you get that runner's high. If you're a runner, you know what I'm talking about. There's a point where you're exhausted running. Next thing you know, you get those hormones, that dopamine gets flushed into your system, and you get that runner's high. And you get that every single time when you're working out with weight resistance. But I got to go back. I'm so excited to see so many young people in the gym working out really hard with weights, and a lot of females, a lot of ladies doing some heavy training. I'm proud of them. They are fantastic, looking great, because sometimes you kind of wonder if you're watching the news or you're out there you're out in the field of life. Boy, there's a lot of fat ass people out here, out of shape. No wonder everybody's got diabetes. They look like shit, and they have trouble moving, and they act old. They look old, and they're 50. And hey, listen, everybody, I'm 68 years old, full of vigor, energy, and excitement for the future. And I hope you are too. I had to jump on here live, and I like going live, vertical, raw, and real, because I have no damn teleprompter. I have no notes, and it's just from the heart to you. And I start gaining a whole new audience here because vertical mode and live, people show up in the shorts feed, and I get to meet you, new people. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, you hit the button. You know what to do. And then maybe check out the rest of the videos. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm thinking about not just personal growth, improvement, and inspiration, these kind of things, life improvement. I was thinking about some social and cultural episodes to do. That might screw up the algorithm of my channel, but who knows? Listen, we're all not one facet, right? We're like diamonds. We have different cuts, different angles to us. All right, everybody. I appreciate your comments. All right. I will see you in the next video.